Hello and welcome back to the Quick Slant on Green Bay Packer Nation and greenbaypackernation.com. Today we're discussing Brian Gutekunst's approach to the draft and which of his two primary mentors might have more influence in his draft philosophy coming into this 2018 NFL draft season. So stick around. So let's dig right in, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about which of these two might influence Gutekunst's draft philosophy more. So there are two GMs that Gutekunst has actually worked with in his tenure at Green Bay. That is Ron Wolf, the guy who hired him, and Ted Thompson, the guy who he spent many more years with. So Ron Wolf hired Gutekunst as a scout in 1998. Gutekunst spent from 98 until 2005 with Ron Wolf as his GM, and that's when Ted Thompson took over the reins. Then from 2005 to, of course, this past season, 2017, Gutekunst was under the tutelage of Ted Thompson, and of course, admittedly looks up greatly to Ted Thompson. So, both of these guys, both of these GMs had I wouldn't say very different draft philosophies, but characteristically different draft philosophies. Ron Wolf really approached the draft from a defensive mindset. He spent a lot of time trying to dig up the best defensive player to pull in the first round of the draft. Ironically, though, he also, there was one season where the Packers played Minnesota and Brett Favre went down, our number 2 quarterback went down, and our number 3 quarterback took the helm, and that kind of threw Ron Wolf into a bit of a tailspin, and he kind of evolved his philosophy to also incorporate in the draft gathering as many quarterbacks as he could, so he always had a good stockpile of quarterbacks behind Brett Favre. And of course, we know the kind of quarterbacks that followed Brett Favre. In the time that Brett Favre was the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, there were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 8 quarterbacks who were his number 2 quarterback at some point that eventually went on to lead other NFL teams as number 1 quarterback. Mark Brunell, you had like Matt Hasselbeck, Ty Detmer, even Aaron Brooks went to play for the Saints. So he really tried to keep the quarterback room full as much as possible. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Gutekunst kind of takes on that philosophy or not. Ted Thompson, of course, was very, not so free agent minded as Ron Wolf was. He was a very big draft and develop kind of guy. And I suspect that maybe Gutekunst is going to continue that draft and develop style of drafting. However, what will be curious for me is Ted Thompson would quite frequently manipulate his draft picks to get a massive amount of mid-range draft picks, and he would stockpile draft picks. He loved to get quantity and maybe even forego first-round quality in exchange for getting massive numbers of draft picks that might pan out. And I think to some degree, the philosophy worked fairly well. We got a lot of great draft picks in the Thompson era that were from deeper in the draft. So what I think will be interesting to see is whether Gutekunst really, I don't think it's as simple as saying that Gutekunst spent 7 years with Ron Wolf and 12 years with Ted Thompson. Therefore, he's probably going to just adopt Ted Thompson's mentality about the draft. I don't think it's as simple as that. However, the fact that the 7 years he spent with Wolf were kind of more formative years, and that the time he spent with Ted Thompson was when he was probably more developing his philosophy about football, even more complex. I suspect that he will maybe adopt more of Ted Thompson's tendencies, but he's already shown in the free agency period that he's kind of leaning more towards being a Ron Wolf type of GM. Ron Wolf, of course, was the guy who gave up a first-round draft pick to go after Brett Favre, who was a second-year nobody in Atlanta. He was the guy who brought in Reggie White. And so he's made some pretty premier picks. Now, Ted Thompson in free agency, I think we can't say that he hasn't done anything in free agency, because he did bring in Julius Peppers, which was an outstanding addition for a couple of years. And of course, he was the guy who brought in Charles Woodson, who spent several years with the Packers and was extremely instrumental in that defense shutting down potent offenses as the Packers were en route to a Super Bowl championship. So I don't think it's fair to say that Ted Thompson was not active in free agency. He wasn't very active, I will admit that. But it'll be interesting to see whether Gutekunst kind of takes on more Ron Wolf tendencies, or whether he takes on more of Ted Thompson's tendencies in this draft. I really want to know what you guys think about it, so I'm going to pop a poll up here to see what you think about whether he will be more of a Ted Thompson kind of draft GM or more of a Ron Wolf kind of draft GM. And definitely, if you're new here, we'd love to have you hit that subscribe button and tap that bell notification so you get notified when we post new videos. And if you have been here for a while, enjoy what we're doing, and want to help us make even better videos, we would love to have you become a patron at patreon.com/PackerNation. You can go there and check out our introductory video, to tell you what we're trying to accomplish with our Patreon account. So until next time, go Pack.